My name is Malik Whitaker, and I was raised in Newark, New Jersey. I'm a visual artist who started off doodling and drawing in my school notebooks and eventually became an avid painter and mixed media artist. Despite the fact that I've had no formal artist training, I became an artist at 23. The idea of being an artist has been something I've thought about since I was very young. When I was a kid, my grandma had this painting at her house that just stood out to me. Nothing fancy about it, just a painting of a forest, but something about it caught my eye. So much so that I still have the painting, all these years later. So imagine my surprise when I eventually found out that the painting was done by my great-uncle Larry. That painting was the first work of art created by someone I knew. I never realized until very recently that there was another artist in my family. Now, there hasn't been one person in particular who has influenced my artistic style per se, but I've spent my time trying to mimic the styles of other prolific artists of my era, like Bob Ross, Justin Bua, Norman Rockwell, those types of artists. My uncle's painting also had a huge impact on how I would approach my art later on in life. I have a love for landscape art, and most of my inspiration comes from my surroundings. I like to transform things into more beautiful representations of the subject to help beautify the environment. I believe when people see beautiful things, it makes them want to do beautiful things. My goal is to inspire young people's creativity and take their creative skills into entrepreneurship. Having talents, but not having someone to give you direction can be discouraging for a young artist. Studio tours are great for inspiring creativity because they provide a chance to see other creatives and what they are working on. Last week, I met another artist whose style reminded me of Southern New Orleans heritage. She was a visual artist who painted fairy tale characters she conceived of and developed. It's so cool having a chance to glimpse into the mind of another person's world and see it through their eyes. It's always inspiring and motivating to see another artist passionate about their craft. It recharges me and helps keep me focused on my own goals because it gives me a chance to get out of my own head and explore someone else's world. When I think of where I grew up, my mind is drawn to the lack of resources that were not available for people here. I believe a huge part of this can be traced back to the Newark riots. A lot of buildings were destroyed in the riots, which created a void in resources. The city was so focused on repairing its infrastructure, food, water, shelter, that unfortunately because of this, Newark basically became a creative ghost town. So I try to use my creative skills to fill that void in any way I can. I believe that in addition to food, water, space, shelter, oxygen, human beings need purpose in order to survive. This is because there comes a time in every person's life when they ask themselves, why am I here? It's a question that a person has to answer for themselves to a certain extent. I think the important thing to remember in the pursuit of purpose is whether you are learning to paint or skydive, not to get hung up on trying to find the one thing you will do for the rest of your life. You are more talented than you think. You are, and you should start any journey to find yourself by first believing and trusting your talents, no matter what life throws at you. Change is a constant you're going to have to learn to embrace, and once you do, you will realize you are worth the experience. So find your voice, find your passion, and change your world.
Woo.